I'm a 27-year-old guy, and until recently, I was in a relationship that lasted nearly 3 years. We shared a modest apartment downtown. I worked as a software engineer at a startup, long hours, non-stop deadlines, but the paycheck was solid and covered our expenses. My girlfriend, ex-girlfriend now, Kay, was juggling part-time shifts at a diner while working towards her degree. From the outside, things seemed normal, stable even. We had the usual spats, like any couple, but nothing that raised alarm bells. That was until last Tuesday. That day, I wrapped up work earlier than usual. My boss had a meeting fall through, and I figured it'd be the perfect chance to surprise Kay. I grabbed her favorite takeout and thought maybe we could unwind with a movie at home. Things had been rough lately. She was neck-deep in finals, and I'd been buried in projects. But I wanted her to know we were still a team, still pushing through together. I pulled up to our apartment building, takeout bags in hand, genuinely feeling hopeful for the first time in weeks. But the moment I got to our floor, I noticed something odd. The front door was slightly open. My heart stuttered and then started hammering like a drum. Something felt off. I stepped in quietly, voices. I recognized hers right away, but there was another voice too, definitely male. At first I thought maybe she had a friend over, but something about the tone didn't sit right. I moved deeper into the apartment, inching my way through the short hallway leading to the living room. Then I heard her. "He doesn't have a clue," she said, voice cutting through the silence. "He's always working. I could be out all night and he wouldn't even notice. Honestly, I've got him wrapped around my little finger. Even if he suspected something, I could talk my way out of it." I froze. For a moment, I thought I must have misheard. But then came the guy's laugh and the distinct clink of glass hitting a bottle. They were drinking in my living room. "He's completely oblivious," she continued. "It's almost embarrassing how easy this has been. And the best part? He still thinks I'm just stressed about school. That's why I'm distant. It's pathetic." My grip tightened around the takeout bag until my fingers went pale. I could feel my pulse in my ears like a war drum. Every instinct screamed at me to burst in, scream, demand answers. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The guy responded, sounding smug. "As long as we're getting what we want, who cares? No one's getting hurt if no one finds out." That broke something inside me. I didn't know who the guy was, and honestly, I didn't care at that moment. Could have been someone from her classes, could have been from work, didn't matter. What mattered was the betrayal. Her sitting there, laughing about how gullible I was. I thought about storming in and confronting them, but I didn't. I backed out, as quietly as I could, closing the door behind me without a sound. I couldn't let them know I'd heard. I don't even know why. Maybe I needed time to process. Maybe I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of a dramatic scene. I walked to my car in a daze, vision blurry, hands trembling. I didn't go home that night. Hell, I wasn't even sure what home meant anymore. I crashed at a buddy's place. Someone Kay didn't know, so there was no chance she'd track me down right away. I barely spoke. Just lay on his couch, staring blankly at the ceiling as everything spun in my head. The next day, I blocked her. On everything. Phone, socials, email, any way she could reach me, gone. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. I wanted her to feel the same sudden shock I did. That brutal, sinking realization that everything was over and she didn't even get a chance to spin her story. The first few days were hell. She tried everything: calls, texts, emails, messages through mutual friends. She even turned up at my office once. I started getting bombarded with messages from random numbers. They all followed the same pattern: confusion, then apologies, then full-on panic. One message said, "Please, can we just talk? I can explain everything. You've got it all wrong. I love you." I didn't answer. What could I possibly say? She betrayed me and then tried to gaslight me into thinking I misunderstood. But I didn't. I heard everything. Every cruel word. Every mocking laugh. She hadn't just cheated, she'd humiliated me. Eventually, friends started reaching out too, asking where I was, telling me Kay was hysterical. I hadn't told anyone the full story. It was too humiliating, too raw. Then about a week later, I learned who the guy was. Not a classmate, not a coworker of hers. He worked at my company. That's right, the guy who helped her laugh at my expense. He was someone I'd nodded to in the hallways, shared meetings with. Hell, I'd even mentioned Kay to him once in casual conversation. She'd referenced him a few times too. Jokingly, casually. She even floated the idea of inviting him out for drinks with us once. I never suspected a thing. To make it worse, he had a girlfriend, one who worked in the same building. It was like a sick game to both of them. Two cheaters wrapped up in their own little fantasy, stepping on the people who trusted them. I thought about quitting, thought about leaving the job behind just to escape the mess. But why should I? Why should I run when I hadn't done anything wrong? So I stayed. I kept my head up, walked into work like nothing happened. But he knew. He couldn't even look at me. Every time we passed each other, he'd glance away like I was a ticking time bomb. I never gave him the explosion he expected. I went to HR instead. Collected every scrap of evidence I had and laid it all out. Clear, professional, and focused. It wasn't just about me. It was about every woman he'd lied to, his girlfriend, our coworkers, everyone he disrespected. Word spread fast. His girlfriend found out before HR could even act. Gossip has a way of moving through cubicles like wildfire. By the end of the week, he was gone, fired, disgraced, his reputation in tatters. And me? I kept doing my job, quiet, unshaken. I didn't feel triumphant, just clean, like I'd finally disinfected a wound that had been festering for too long. And strangely enough, moving on didn't take as long as I thought it would. The first few weeks were rough, but after that, it was like fog lifting. I wasn't just the guy who got cheated on anymore. I was someone who'd survived it, grown from it. I realized I'd spent way too long putting Kay on a pedestal, brushing off the signs. The nights she came home late, the emotional distance, the weird excuses. I'd ignored it all because I didn't want to admit that maybe we weren't okay. I won't say I've forgiven her, or him. I probably never will, but I've let it go. I've learned how to move forward. Trust is harder now, sure, but I'm not broken. I'm just wiser. And I'll never, ever let someone treat me like that again. A few months passed. Life slowly settled into something resembling normal. I started going to the gym again, took on more responsibilities at work, even began reconnecting with old friends I'd pushed away while I was wrapped up in that relationship. My focus shifted back to myself, for the first time in a long time. But that peace didn't come without complications. One morning, around 2 months after everything had gone down, I got an email. A name I hadn't seen in weeks popped up in my inbox. Kay's mom. We weren't especially close, but she'd always been kind to me. Polite, supportive even. I hesitated for a while before opening it, thinking maybe it was another one of Kay's attempts to reach me through someone else. But the message was short. I'm sorry for everything you've had to go through. I had no idea. Just wanted you to know that not everyone in her life condones what she did. You deserved better. That was it. No defense, no guilt trip. Just a quiet acknowledgement from someone who'd seen Kay's mask fall off too. I didn't reply, but for some reason it brought a strange sort of closure. She knew. Her family knew. It wasn't just me stuck holding the truth alone. And that helped. A few weeks after that, I was invited to a small get-together at a co-worker's house. Someone from a different department who didn't know anything about what had happened. I debated going, but eventually decided I needed to rejoin the world. That night changed everything. I met someone. Her name was Lena. She wasn't flashy or overly confident, just grounded, kind, funny in that quiet, thoughtful way that sneaks up on you. We ended up talking for hours on the back patio while everyone else partied inside. She asked if I was seeing anyone. I laughed and said, "God, no." She asked what happened, and I paused, but told her the truth. Not all the gory details, but enough. Her face didn't twist into pity. She didn't offer cliches or hollow sympathy. She just listened. And when I finished, she nodded and said something I'll never forget. Sometimes people show us who they are too late, but at least they show us. It wasn't love at first sight. It wasn't fireworks or slow-motion glances across the room. It was better. It was calm. Real. We exchanged numbers, started texting, grabbed coffee a week later, then dinner, then more. I won't pretend things were easy after that. Dating after betrayal is like learning to walk again after a leg's been shattered. Every step is cautious. Every glance, every word, you overanalyze. I'd flinch when someone took too long to respond. I'd catch myself expecting the worst, wondering if she was lying, even when there was no reason to believe she was. Trust wasn't something I could offer easily anymore, but Lena never pushed. She never demanded more than I was ready to give. She didn't try to erase what happened. She just made space for me to heal. And slowly, I did. Meanwhile, back at work, things had shifted. My performance was better than ever. My manager pulled me aside after a presentation and said, "You've stepped up big time this quarter." I even got a promotion offer, team lead. I was hesitant at first. After all the emotional wreckage, I wasn't sure I was ready for more responsibility. But I took it, because I wasn't that guy anymore. I wasn't just the person who got cheated on. I wasn't the silent partner in a one-sided relationship. I was rebuilding, and this time, it was on my terms. One random Saturday morning, I bumped into Kay. It was at the grocery store, of all places. I was just grabbing some snacks and frozen meals, and she turned into my aisle like some kind of twisted movie scene. We both froze. She looked different, tired, smaller somehow, like a balloon with all the air let out. Her eyes widened when she saw me, and for a second I thought she might walk away, but she didn't. "Hey," she said, almost too softly to hear. I nodded. "Hey." She asked how I'd been. I said, "Better." She gave a tiny, sad smile. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry," she said. "For everything." I looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time I didn't feel anger or pain, just distance, like she was a character from a different story I'd stopped reading. I know, I replied, and I hope you figure things out. Then I turned around and left my cart half full in the aisle. I didn't need anything from that store anymore. Now, it's been about a year since that night. Lena and I are still together. We're not rushing anything, just taking it as it comes. And I've learned to trust again, not blindly, but with intention. I've also started writing in my spare time, nothing serious, just journaling, storytelling, little bits of fiction. It helps. It's how I've processed everything. And maybe one day someone will read those stories and see themselves in them. Maybe they'll realize they're not alone. Because here's what I've learned. People can break you. They can lie, cheat, and stomp all over what you thought was love. But that doesn't mean you're broken forever. You just have to choose yourself. Every time. And when you do, you stop surviving and start living again. 16 months have passed since I walked out of that apartment and never looked back. Lena and I are still together. What started slow has grown into something steady and strong. She knows everything, every ugly detail, and she never once treated me like I was broken. With her, trust isn't demanded, it's built. Funny how peace can feel so foreign after chaos. But then came a message I never expected. Not from Kay, from his girlfriend, the one he cheated on along with Kay. We'd never spoken before, just nodded at office events, smiled politely in the elevator. But her name popped up in my DMs one evening like a ghost from a chapter I thought was closed. Hey, I know this is random, but I wanted to thank you. You didn't know it, but you gave me the courage to leave him. I deserved better, just like you did. I stared at the message for a long time. Sometimes closure doesn't come from the person who hurt you. It comes from the people they hurt too. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because that chapter, it's sealed. I'm not who I was anymore. I'm not looking for revenge, or apologies, or explanations. I've built something real from the wreckage. And for the first time in my life, I'm genuinely happy. Not because someone loves me, but because I finally learned how to love myself enough to walk away. It was a quiet Sunday morning when I got the wedding invite. Not mine, not Kay's, his. Yeah, the same guy. Apparently, he'd moved cities, cleaned up his image, met someone new. A mutual coworker forwarded the digital invitation by accident. He probably forgot I was still on the old group list. It hit me harder than I expected. Not because I cared, not because I missed anything, but because he just moved on, like nothing ever happened. For a moment, I felt the old bitterness creep back in, the unfairness, the injustice. But then Lena walked in, hair a mess, hoodie halfway down one shoulder, sipping coffee from a mug I bought her on our second date. She smiled at me like I was the only thing in the world that made sense. And just like that, the bitterness vanished. Let him get married, let him pretend. Because I wasn't pretending. I survived the worst parts of myself. I rebuilt from nothing. I found someone who doesn't just love me, but respects me. That's the kind of peace you can't fake. So I deleted the invite, blocked the contact, and took Lena's hand as we walked out the door for brunch. No drama, no need for revenge, just real life. And this time, it's mine. Thank you for watching Story. Please subscribe and hit the notification bell for more real-life stories.